Welcome back, everyone. I'm Julian Pastry-Time-Kara, and joining me on the cast today is Sam, Kobe, Hartman, Kensler. Coming up, we have our rematch of perennial powerhouses Cloud9 and TSM. Last week, Cloud9 had a nail-biter against FlyQuest, showing that they're not unstoppable, but can TSM be the first team to hand them a loss?
That's what everybody's wondering, Pastry. I mean, FlyQuest, as you said, versus Cloud9, they were able to show that Cloud9's early game is exploitable. And this is something that people have been tracking for the first part of the split versus Cloud9, but Cloud9 have been able to win all of their series by bringing it together towards the mid-game. It's still something that people are looking for teams to exploit a bit further, though. One of the things that FlyQuest did specifically was Camp Impact, and that was very successful for them as far as the early part. And definitely is something that TSM could also look to attack, because Impact has grown to be not just a great individual player, individual laner, but also a huge part of the shot calling with this team and an integral part of the communication. Now, these two teams did also last meet at the very first game of the season. If you remember way back to the first meeting, it was Cloud9 who did take the victory. And actually, that was the most hyped point of Contract.
Yep.
We just saw on stage there. He came out swinging, he got a bunch of kills, Earth Bloods and stuff versus TSM. So it really did set up this big expectation of Contract and Jensen working together. Since then, they have had some games where very desynced invades, but that is definitely something they're going to look to try and bring back from that first meeting.
And we do always watch the mid lane matchup. Whenever Bjergsen and Jensen compete, for so long, Bjergsen has been the undisputed king of mid lane in the NALCS, but Jensen could continue making his case for the crown here.
Yeah, I mean, so people are, whenever Bjergsen doesn't have a good game, like, people get right on it, because he's been the best player in the North American LCS for so long. And with that comes a lot of credit. So even if you do have a couple of bad games, people are still going to give you that same respect and still going to give you a lot of focus as far as the mid lane goes. So it's still going to be Bjergsen versus Jensen in the mid lane. Definitely two powerhouses. And we have to say, though, last week versus Echo Fox, because we saw, FlyQuest, they posed some questions to Cloud9. Echo Fox actually 2-0 TSM, and that was a series where a lot of the members on TSM did need to step up. But as far as Bjergsen, he's definitely going to look to make a comeback very quickly here.
And I think all of TSM have actually been struggling a little bit. They are known throughout their resilience for the season, so they're going to see if they can use this match to prove if they're still one of NA's best, because the best test right now is Cloud9.
That's right. We have so many of these seasons where, TSM, they're up and down. Reggie comes in, he starts coaching for the team. All these various
the whip
aspects.
starts cracking.
Yeah, they don't really tolerate losing for very long before they try and change up a whole bunch of stuff. So far this split, even though their series record is quite good, the game record definitely shows the struggle that they've had to put up with as far as the beginning of spring.
It certainly has been tough. And with that, we'll check out the starting lineups. On the blue side to kick things off, it is Cloud9, top lane Impact, jungle Contracts, mid lane extraordinaire Jensen, bot duo Sneaky and Smoothie, and coach Reapid.
And on the red side, it is TSM. Up top is Haunter in the jungle, Svenskeren. Mid is the other Titan in the mid lane, Bjergsen. Bottom, Wild Turtle, support Biofrost, and Coach Parth up on stage.
I will say it is nice to see all the Danish mid laners doing well this season. Even Froggen, like you mentioned, with their last matchup as TSM, has been playing well. And I think Jensen, statistically at least, he's on fire this season.
He really has. And actually the champion pools of the mid laners as well is interesting in this matchup, because Bjergsen's been playing a ton of Cassiopeia, and that's the type of champion that, when parts of the team are kind of falling apart, you want your mid laner on just this like machine gun mage from the mid lane who's going to be able to carry towards the late game and going to be able to put out a lot of damage. So, maybe we see TSM go that way again as far as setting them up in the early ban phase. Jensen has been one to jump on that rise, so maybe you go into one of those matchups. But we'll see. As far as the pick bans, I'm very excited because with 7.3, we finally get to shake up a lot of the expected red side ones and switch things around.
Some things never change, though. First ban rise here for Cloud9 on the blue side as we do get ourselves into Champion Select TSM with a Malzahar ban.
I'm actually a super big fan of the early phases of these, flex pick bans that are coming out. It does also raise some priority on the other supports down in the bottom side that are high priority, like the Zyra, for instance, super powerful mages. But as of right now, we'll go back to kind of the old ones. Even though Camille got hit super hard as far as the nerfs, some of the biggest win rate changes out of 7.3, still very capable hands. You really do need to respect the champion. So that one finds himself, as well as your Rainbow.
It's one of the nice things I like about blue side Camille ban. I think it tells you a lot about the changes because Cloud9 aren't willing to first pick it because it's not that strong, but it's strong enough that they don't want to give it away. So it looks weird to see it shift sides, but I think that tells you a lot about the changes.
Also, a little added caveat there. Impact had the Camille, what was it, a week or 2 weeks ago, and had a lot of unfortunate errors. So it definitely looks like he hadn't put a lot of time in on the champion, and because it was banned so much or something. But yeah, they definitely don't want to first pick it, as you said, due to maybe familiarity issues as well. So that one definitely do like that ban from Cloud9.
Will LeBlanc for Cloud9. Jace for TSM leaves Varus wide open. Cloud9 snap that up.
All right, the Varus. We were focusing so much on all these old bans that the new era of bans, where Varus has very commonly find himself on the red side, actually does slip through here with TSM's priority shifting over to the Jace at the very end there. But that means that, as usual, we will expect a Jhin pickup in first round at some point from TSM. Again, no reason to rush it, as Cloud9 would probably not run the Varus in the mid lane and grab both of those. But again, that is an option if teams want to craft these next level pick bans where you want to try and take away both of the primary lethality marksmen. It is viable in the mid lane still, and it always is worth mentioning these possible flexes.
Yeah, Kha'Zix Maokai for TSM is a small risk here in draft because Cloud9 can take some stuff away with the flex picks, and TSM are showing a little bit more than they have to potentially here, but pretty unlikely that Cloud9 will take away the AD carry. They want their Shen for Cloud9 matching the Maokai versus TSM in top lane, and now Cloud9 are going to get to show a different pick. They might just take jungle here to match the Kha'Zix. That should give TSM the easy Jhin pickup. So nothing too crazy should happen here in phase 1.
Definitely not expected, but still, door is open.
I'm ready.
And there it is. There's your expected answer. As Rengar is already banned, going down the tier list. And actually, to me, the priority on Kha'Zix over Graves should be very, very small as far as TSM. And that may be another one of those familiarity issues or something coming in. But I know that both these guys have had plenty of Graves time, so I don't think that is too big of an issue. I do really, really love Graves at the moment.
I think he's amazing.
Extremely powerful with these lethality builds, and just offers a bunch of control and basically the ability to be ready for plays at any moment in the game. Because you don't have to take damage, you actually can gain life off of doing camps. As long as you position your route that you're doing camps near where you think the aggression is going to come from. He has a lot of uptime as far as jungler availability to react to plays on the map, and that's super high priority for me.
Yeah, it seems so efficient that you always have an issue with Graves. I think is part of the reason he's so good. TSM, though, banning Zed away, a champion that is quickly rising in priority in that mid lane. I mean, almost everyone has played Zed a lot at some point. Bjergsen and Jensen are no...
A whole bunch of NA at least, baby.
Yep. And there's Cassio for Cloud9. So picking on that champion you mentioned earlier for Bjergsen.
Yeah, so the mid lane, the Zed actually, we were just talking about this too, because previously to today, all the North American Zeds were either high or played against high by Keen, but definitely branching out, and it is spreading throughout a lot of the scrim groups as well. So finds himself here, and there's that Cassiopeia that I talked about. Looks like, Reaper Cloud9 also doing heavy research there on TSM. Not going to let that one through to Bjergsen, because if you have a front line as strong as Maokai, setting that up with one of those standard team fights where you have just super high-powered mage behind him for the end game, can get very scary. So they do take that one away from Bjergsen. Little touch on that Maokai though as well, with the difference between the Maokai and the Shen. Cloud9, you always want to set up the Shen for those early cross-map plays to try and snowball through bottom half of the map instead.
Pretty interesting to see 4 mid lane bans though. Echo Zed, Syndra, Cassio between TSM and Cloud9. It seems like with the way TSM are banning, door is wide open for Corki mid if they want to take it here.
And they get option of first picking basically for second round. First pick, second rounding that Corki pick that you talked about, or
gonna counter pick instead.
Waiting for Jensen to force him to show. As far as Corki though, doesn't have like any super terrible matchups. The only thing is that would leave them with 3 marksmen and the Shen as the front line, which is getting into dangerous territory where you don't have a tremendous amount of CC. I mean, you still have the Varus skill shots that you can land, but you have to be on point with your various skill shot and your taunts if you're going to be able to make that type of comp work. Plus use that snowballing to really push them ahead. And it looks like that will be the avenue they go for.
Looks like they're just going to steal it away. I mean, it seems, I think TSM were hoping this wouldn't happen, maybe for the compositional issues you mentioned, but Corki there for Cloud9. We did have Nami on the TSM side, so I like that she's starting to rise significantly in priority in the bottom lane, particularly against all the strong aggressive supports. Question now is, what do Cloud9 finish with?
Yeah, and particularly, adding some sustain into a Jhin lane early. Jhin, especially if the Varus player is able to land the in-lane skill shots, you can really bully pretty early on. So Nami sustain going to help out there for themselves. Smoothie though picks up the playmaker in Thresh, and I always love to see supports be willing to go with that champion and have the don't react quite yet.
I think he's just teasing Jensen there. But I mean, in my mind, we've seen Zed and Echo versus the Corki. Orianna doesn't make a whole lot of sense here, but it would be a safe pick. I have to think that if they're going to give Corki away, they have potential counter pick, but maybe Bergson just wants to play the safe matchup instead.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Also, as far as rounding out the, super good late game damage output, very good as far as standard team fighting goes. This is a very solid, team comp from them. Meanwhile, Cloud9 on their side, what I would look for is some pressure on bottom side. They have, Graves, as we talked about, can get through the jungle with a large amount of health and can at least hang around that area. When Shen hits level 6, Corki has package. This is primed to be Cloud9 pushing an early advantage through their bottom half of the map. People should get accustomed to, respecting the early Corki packages and the giant siren that goes off, though we've still seen them catch some people unawares. Those in combination with Shen can just be brutal, though.
And I think with the way these two teams have already met in this season, these comps make a lot of sense for the first game. Very aggressive at Cloud9, ability to snowball hard and just win a quick first game here. TSM, we know the early games looked pretty shaky, especially against Cloud9 the last time they met. Like you said, it's very simple, very safe team fighting comp for TSM. If they make it to where they're comfortable and the game's not horribly far out of reach for them, this should be very straightforward.
Yeah, that's actually a super good point. I like that you bring this up because coming into this game, Cloud9 actually have the lowest percentage of first turrets being secured in their game. So they have not been the ones forcing down the early objectives. And that might be an area where, as we said, maybe TSM try and camp impact or try and push things ahead. But we'll see. Neither of these teams have been real, explosive early game starters.
I think potentially against each other, they know how good the other is, so going to want to play safe here. But we'll see what happens. Maybe there's some fireworks out for game number 1, but here we are. Cloud9 TSM round 2.
Love these rematches. Cloud9, if you guys don't remember, got the better of the first meeting of these two teams. We're able to beat TSM on day 1.
That's a gross understatement. They got more than the better of TSM in their first meeting.
TSM, though, very, very vocal about their improvements they feel they've been able to create over the course of the spring split and very ready for the rematch.
It's one thing for Cloud9. I mean, they don't want to drop games if they can help it. They certainly don't want to drop matches given the spotless record, but I think it feels extra bad to lose to TSM. We're going to want to try and stay atop the pack firmly here. Impact Contracts and Jensen all grouping up here, looking into Sven Skaren's red side jungle.
So one of the things here, this is not just, a normal feint invade. Whenever you do have Maokai on the enemy team, there's a possibility that this Maokai starts saplings for the jungler. Yeah, it's not ideal for your lane phase, but a couple of saplings in the Raptor camp can give a jungler an instant level 2 if he's sitting over there. And especially a Kha'Zix, jump starting a Kha'Zix along the jungle route can definitely snowball the early game. So I like what Cloud9 did there. A little semi-invade just to make sure nothing's being set up around the Raptor camp and back right out.
Yeah, both teams have decent information here as well. You can see Sven starting on the blue buff. Going to have some leash help here by Total and Firefrost. Honsa has already been spotted in the top lane, so Sven's position should be pretty obvious. Contracts as well. They saw him on the left side, so I imagine he's down there. And we'll see if Bio and Total fall behind it all, given that Sneaky and Smoothie did make it to the wave first and should have the pressure in the lane.
Yeah, gonna have the pressure. Smoothie gets a flay. Sneaky's able to hit his first arrow, so going decently well for them so far. Should be able to keep this shove up. Svenskeren also starting on the bottom, quadrant of the map. Should give them a little bit more confidence to be able to pressure the TSM duo lane. As Svenskeren would have to, alter a little bit inefficiently to get back down there. Also, there's a big cost to going for early ganks here.
Well, Jensen and Bjergsen going to go for a bit of a trade. You can see the fence very close here is even mid lane trade between the two. Both players not wanting to back down, but knowing the limits in every single matchup. Jensen got the wave in his favor for a short while, though.
Yeah, Bjergsen also still going with the Ghost in the mid lane, even after the nerfs. And he is against a mid laner and jungler marksman that are not going to bring any crowd control, just tons of damage. So basically, if you can dodge the damage stuff, then you're okay. And he just has to be light on his feet because there's no crowd control that will hold him down. So he doesn't have to waste a summoner there, and he's going to rely on the mobility.
Early trade down onto Turtle as well, also costing him some health, so gonna have to let this wave push. I think we sort of expected this. We've seen a lot of high damage or big playmaking supports this season in particular, and the healing supports seem to be a big response to particularly the poke. So Firefrost and Turtle gonna have to chill out for a little bit, but it looks like everyone's just kind of relaxed in their lanes. Top lane, we haven't been there yet, but nothing much will happen for a while. Don't worry too much.
Yeah, couple of big waves building up. They should be collected fairly easily. I do expect Turtle to miss some of that CS under turret and still have a CF deficit, but here comes the difference in that roam from pushing up on the bottom side, and everybody's trying to pin down Bjergsen. Not going to happen, though.
Good communication from TSM. Smoothie left, and Bjergsen immediately exited towards the correct side of the lane.
Yeah, so the push from the bottom side did afford a roam. However, Turtle caught almost back up in CS and won't have too big of a difference here.
Oh no!
Land!
Looking there from Smoothie, Ignite is down. They're going to try going for it. And that's first blood to Smoothie. Now Bifrost going to have to get himself out of the way.
Mate, what? He's want to go pistol whip him after the other one maybe there. But Turtle's right in there and gives up the first blood. Down a flash. It almost looked like maybe he had his heal and flash switched or something.
Maybe.
I don't know. But anyways, that is going to be... We already had set up this match in Champion Select about this is the bottom lane for Cloud9 wanting to push through and be their big advantage. Anyways, here's the play. Biofrost, by the way, you always want to go for your skill shots as Jhin. Yeah, he definitely did not mean to do that. You always want to shoot your skill shots against Jhin as soon as you see the deadly for a start because you can't move during it. It's a bit of a self-root. Yeah, he's like, whoopsie daisy. It does self-root you, so that's why Biofrost immediately, it's like, I got this hook, pretty free, right next to the minion, as Turtle is going for the Deadly Flourish, and TSM give up that first blood.
Yeah, rough stuff. We did expect the lane to not go too well, but giving up a kill is kind of maximum pain in the duo lane there.
Right, we expected it to not go well once Cloud9 got to their Corki package and got to their Shen level 6. It's going well for Cloud9 before that even happened, so TSM need to be very cautious on this side of the map.
Well, better with no flash is a prime target for Contract's attention, but a lot of the early roam pressure and gank pressure has been towards that mid lane. Svenskaren's been awfully quiet though, I will say. We'll see if he's maybe got something, but I think just wants to contain Contracts for as long as he can. Keep farming up and keep tabs on that Graves so his lanes can stay nice and safe. Impact, not under too much threat here, but Svenskeren will get some info, popping that Scry's Bloom down into Cloud9's blue side jungle.
Yeah, Contracts here, going to be able to clear out his Raptors, and they have a bunch of vision as well for Cloud9 on the bottom side. It's, I mean, even though it's pretty telegraphed in Champ Select and, with the direction that C9 are playing, it's really about how you play your weak side during those big advantages, right? TSM make the early swap up to top side, and they're trying to pressure Impact. He should, as soon as he sees extra members, back out of here.
Yeah, I mean, Svenskaren's here as well, going to try and cut him off. The taunt is there, but leap on for Sven. Good bit of poke damage there, but TSM's going to try and get the turret ASAP.
And that's what you want to do when you've been crushed in your bottom lane. As far as we are saying, oh, it's going to go from bad to worse for TSM down there, they just get out. They make the early swap. They're going to get this first turret gold. I think they're ahead on the race.
Looks like they are. They got an extra member. Should be enough.
They got it.
First turret gold to TSM. C9, though, answering well. Contract's in the right place to make this play. Was probably not doing too much there, 2v4 in top lane. So Svenskeren will take control of this section again. There is a blue buff up, so great timing on TSM's jungler's part. Not sure Bjergsen can get there in time to try and take it. He is going to have a look in.
Yeah, really good recovery here from TSM. Not just dwelling on the past, not being, going right back to that bottom lane where they're losing, make the early switch, and at least they get something out of it, right? You get the extra advantage of the first turret gold. Yeah, you're going to have to give the dragon as well, and the bottom side of the map was pretty much already Cloud9's, so it's not like they really had a choice, and that was an eventuality anyway. Cloud9 had so much control down there, plus with a Shen. And instead, they are actually at least able to trade something for themselves to keep the gold even.
Dead even, in fact. This contract's just taking out these Krugs. Cloud9 get a little bit better on the overall trade, but a standard response, like you said. Jerks, a little low on mana, despite the blue buff. Gonna go back and do some shopping. And early backs for Jensen already. I love the aggression in this build path. Early Sork Shoes and a Sheen. Looking to do maximum damage either in his mid lane or more accurately when he leaves the lane with the package.
Exactly. I love early rushing Sork boots because it makes your roam so impactful. With the early flat penetration when, before champions are having a chance to scale up with any sort of magic resist, you get high value there, plus the extra movement speed combined with package could make Jensen a big early game playmaker for these guys. But it's pretty funny that...
Fine?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
All right.
As a jungler, you're accustomed to this.
Yeah.
This sort of like on the edge. Jungle monsters don't pull any surprise moves. There's no extra speed burst coming out or anything. But what was I talking about before? Oh yeah, the bottom lane side there for TSM. Still going to have to try and catch up as Turtle is going to have to make up some ground on the experience on the top side and start building up his lethality there for Jhin. We'll be in a little bit of a hole, but at the moment, nobody up there to contest his farm and should be just fine.
Yeah, sneaky up big in CS right now, about 20 up, 70 to 50 or so. Dirksen just hugging around in Fog of War, hoping that Jensen thinks he's leaving, but going to stay in the lane. Has his early items up with the Lost Chapter and the Fiendish Codex, so Morellonomicon, as expected, coming out. Shouldn't be too far away from that. And again, I think the longer we can keep Corki anchored to this mid lane, the better he's going to feel. It's a good little sidestep on that missile.
Working towards the vision. I like to see large groups of teams going to do the first line of vision, which is pretty dangerous.
I want to go in for a contract.
Whoa!
Penalty there. Chain of Corruption lands on his fence. Garen flashes out of the way. Smoothie plays him in. There's the hook landing in straight into the smoke screen. Sven going to pop the ulti and try and run out, but he's got nowhere to go. Sneaky
Cancel
with the
that.
next kill, and Haunter immediately hits the cancel.
That's why you want to go with a large group, but even with the large group, met by a tremendous force from Cloud9 and explosive second kill here. Contract's diving right over the wall into multiple members, but luckily they also have Thresh on their team. Another kill for C9. In fact, trading favorably on the bottom side as well.
Chet's pretty good. Surprisingly, in melee matchups, Haunter eating the wrong end of that trade.
And he did use Stand United because of the
this.
simple numbers advantage here from TSM. Traveling in a group to go do their warding so that they would be ready for something like this. But really it was Sneaky's ultimate from Varus here that locked Sven in to be able to secure themselves this kill. And then there you go. Went to him as well as far as the kill credits. So Sneaky starting to rack those up.
Having a great early game as well. 1 kill, 1 assist, and a good chunk of CS up. Stacking that as quick as possible. And you can already see that's barely any lethality, and Turtle is just paper thin.
End of the line, plus the arrow from Sneaky. Almost able to kill Turtle outright. And the pressure will continue.
Contract's ult is almost... Actually, it is back up. So yeah, Turtle's going to have to get away from this. 3v2, not favorable at all for TSM. Spence Garen in the wings, but C9 going to take another turret for themselves. And TSM, we talk about the early game being a bit shaky. They've tried to trade here, but have been just a step or two behind.
And to be fair, we set up the Cloud9 with having the lowest first turret percentage. They still didn't get the first turret.
That's true.
As far as, the early game is definitely going great for them, snowballing off that bottom lane pressure. But TSM were able to at least get something out of kind of losing scenario. And we will see if they're able to stabilize this mid game. Because whenever you do have a comp that is a fairly secure team fighting 5, you do always have that option to try and rely on. It just does make you tread a bit more lightly around this stage of the game, especially when those other options like the package do line up for Cloud9.
Yeah, Jensen's ready to go, so they're going to shove this wave out. We'll look to see at least where he's going to exert pressure on. Immediately dips left, going to take out that control ward and TSM know they have to play back for the minute or so that the package is available. Jensen, though, just speeding through the jungle. Bifrost does not want to 1v1 that Corki. 3 levels down, going to get a ward down and at least try and track where Jensen wants to go.
Yeah, C9 want to make a push on the opposite side from Shen constantly. So even though they've swapped lanes, Impact now, bottom side, he is stand united, and he will be able to land a bit quicker in any team fight that breaks out, plus very clearly adding the shield. So they have free reign pretty much to get in here, take over all the vision. And once you have vision established with a Varus on your side, it makes it very easy to get some pretty free chunks of health out of the enemy team.
Nice defensive play, though, from TSM. Jensen just used it in lane. Again, they wanted to make a play here, but feeling a little risky. Svenskeren, though, going to go maybe the short way around. Ulti from Barrett's going to catch him in our Contract, trying to take him down. Should be enough damage. Oriana Ball's almost enough to save him. Contract takes him down, but the snipe comes back in, and he'll go down to Turtle. Now Haunter diving in with the teleport, looking to lock someone up. Impact made it in there with the ultimate, and TSM needs something.
Good disengage there from Smoothie on the Thresh. Play back, popping up the box there, and then they get out on the Blast Cone because Impact took a large chunk of damage getting in there, and TSM, even though Sven's the one who gets jumped on here, and Contract uses the combo to try and burst Sven, even though jumps over his head, it takes him a while to kill him, and they do get the counter kill. Plus, Impact being lower on health means the tank health battle is currently in TSM's favor, so very necessary and good disengage there from Smoothie to get them out after the fact.
I think something you raised, though, is already starting to show for TSM's comp, particularly as it scales up. You talked about the single damage type there for Cloud9. They have a lot of attack damage and not as much AP, despite the fact that Corki's split. I mean, Svenskeren looked hard enough to kill with shield from Oriana and heals and shields from Bifrost. Maokai should be impossible to kill, and they're always going to be able to support the frontline member and keep them tanky, assuming they can scale up to that mid-late point.
Yeah, and even with Corki's magic damage that he's bringing to the table, Maokai already has the cowl here, which is going to afford him some. Plus, he's landed a snare.
Bubble there as well. Snare after the deadly flourish. Easy kill for Haunter, and TSM now going to convert for the Drake.
TSM get another pick off here. This one is unanswered. Cloud9 do have teleport on Impact, but no stand united, so they may just go for some sort of snipe steal. Sneaky's famous for it.
Certainly is. W not going to work for Varus, but Q should do just fine. Not enough there, and Haunter goes back of it. Jensen, TSM, so decisive in the bubble. Get a catch him as well. And Sven takes out Sneaky.
TSM take the dragon and take their lives as well. 2 kills on top of it. No teleport coming out because the members died too quickly. That would have been a wasted teleport channel. It takes too long for him to get there. Jensen immediately taken out in that CC chain. Didn't have time to flash there either. Once the first one landed, look at this. Haunter walks right over to him. Jensen probably didn't think that that was going to be able to reach that far, but because he doesn't flash early, boom, instant cancel there from the Maokai plus Nami bubble follow up, and TSM actually start to snowball in front.
Equalize the turrets and actually get themselves up ahead in gold. Mountain Drake helping out with the bottom outer turret take. And now they're up 1,000 as Cloud9 were trying to snowball the game forward. TSM instead equalized nicely, and we'll see where the teams want to go next because the map is pretty wide open. A little imbalanced as far as overall geography goes.
Definitely true. The big imbalance you're talking about here is the vision, right? Cloud9, red quadrant, a lot of wards still over there from their time spent on that side, whereas TSM have those ones lingering around after that Drake victory they just got. All this being said, though, still extremely close game here, and Cloud9 do have the Varus Corki, one of the most classic right now combinations for these mid-game poke sieges. Mid lane turrets are still standing, the outer one, so that's a pretty clear target for them to direct themselves to next. Currently, though, they've sent Jensen to push out the minion waves on top side first before coming over to try and join and get any sort of poke steamrolling here.
Good little push attempt by TSM, but Cloud9 play back and know the turret's not under too much threat. Impact is also here causing a bevy of problems for TSM. Level 11. Ready to go with teleport and rank 2 ultimate. Haunter's summoner not quite off cooldown just yet. So TSM will continually have to worry as the game goes on and the map gets bigger. The Impact is causing problems in a side lane. So it's going to be very important to see TSM make intelligent macro decisions, but also decisive ones. Haunter's flash over the wall for that kill, great. That's shades of the TSM we saw last year when they took over Summer, but gonna need a lot more of that to beat a team like Cloud9.
Definitely true. As Bjergsen said himself, Cloud9 is the team to beat in the North American LCS right now. Still undefeated in series play, and definitely the strongest one here so far in spring. See if they can pull it together, though. One of the biggest strengths of this team has been, something that Reaper has talked about a lot, and a lot of the players have given him credit for is, even last year, focused so heavily on communication. And when you come to the stage nowadays, you hear Impact, super heavy voice as far as team communication, super confident in his English, very decisive calls coming from him. Smoothie, one of the guys that was previously a rookie on the team, stepping up huge as far as the communication. And the next step there is to fully integrate contracts as well. But TSM themselves have been focusing on the exact same area for improvement. Losing double lift and having other members take over.
Well, this game is very tense at this point. Mid lane outer turrets are causing quite a number of issues for either team here because they don't really have a lot of space to work with and try and make a play. I mean, there's not even a Drake up in under 2 minutes. Jensen with the package and the Trinity Force, plus working on his rapid fire, could make something happen. Firefrost gets away.
Yeah, he canceled some recalls there. A little bit of a jumpy start there for TSM as well. Does use the package right over some wards, so they thought maybe he was coming in hot as well. But you really do have to worry about these Maokai flanks, even now. And there are some decent middle ground wards for TSM, but it's pretty risky to really pull that trigger. And both teams are being fairly cautious right now. They're spending much more time trying to manage the side waves. Nobody really wants to pull that trigger around mid. And we're just seeing the side waves actually get pushed, not even past a quarter of the way here on either side, as they're almost instantly answered from both teams. And the wave clear in mid lane in the 3-man is a lot easier to pull off.
It'll tell us a lot about these teams, especially for TSM in this game, about how well they can manage Impact. It's almost a full-time job, making sure Shen doesn't surprise you with a side lane push, and Haunter also has to group with the team when appropriate, teleport when appropriate, and still be impactful in team fights. Sure, the mid laners are just trading side lane farm, and they'll continue to do that back and forth while the map is still quite closed, but again, as longer the game goes and the bigger it gets, it's just going to get tougher for TSM.
Plus, if they keep trading side waves, the wards along river become important, and trying to pick someone off in rotation. Right now, they've caught them a little bit slow on the rotation as Cloud9 pushed the wave first, so Jensen is mid.
Oh, ow. Well, Total burns the heal that time.
He's like, you didn't say anything, back to full health. Nami heal plus Summoner. Nobody shot me, what are you talking about?
It's going to stop the siege from Cloud9 though, who are again trying to use Impact's pressure and the rest of their siege and poke to try and push down the crucial turret there. Haunter doesn't quite snag contracts on the reveal. There is a Drake up in 15 seconds. TSM might fancy that objective instead.
I feel like whether they go for the contest or give it up depends heavily on if they're able to get some wards down. Because, giving over a 20-minute team fight for a Cloud Drake would not be a big deal, but here goes a hook onto Bjergsen. No deep vision, so no confrontation here. They also didn't quite have the rest of the marksmen in place. And it will be a very quick Drake here that TSM jump on.
Yeah, it should be easy enough, despite the Q nerfs for Kha'Zix. Pretty straightforward. Also there with the assist, and rest of TSM gets back to mid lane safety to continue to protect that turret. Impact can join at any moment, but he's swapped back to this top lane here, trying to get pressure pushing that way.
Yeah, slightly more decisive for TSM, moving in the double control wards. They're able to get that bit of fog of war to work with, and not only does it dissuade C9 from going for that pick, but they also quickly take the objective with no answer. Turtle's getting beat up, but he's also getting healed up very quickly here.
I mean, sometimes that's why you need the Nami. Got to protect Turtle, who gets a little eager sometimes. Bjergsen, though, has been collecting a huge advantage in CS on the side for TSM, and Sneaky's still up good numbers there versus Turtle, but Bjergsen is pretty far ahead of Jensen.
Jensen has exhaust, and he's waiting in the brush. Does he actually go for that one?
I mean, 2-item Orianna with that much early magic pen is real dangerous, so
yeah.
Not sure even Jensen wants to go for that one, but has potential certainly. Corki does a lot of front-loaded damage with the Trinity Force. But Bjergsen now going on a back instead. The mid laners will continue to bounce sideways back and forth against each other. And TSM, again, happy to play patient. They know the game will break open very quickly once more turrets start to fall and the bigger objectives start to become a little more easy to take. Teams might be looking to Baron for the next 5-10 minutes.
TSM feel pretty good, about their Maokai front line as we get deeper and deeper into this game. He's definitely more tanky than the Shen at the moment. Not only because Shen also takes a small detour in the full tank build, because Shen nowadays get Tiamat super early on to help them with the push, because without they push so slowly. But just inherently with the kit as well, Maokai scales extremely well as far as the one-on-one in-game tank front line.
Well, Beckton Haunter will say hello for a bit. Haunter, I think, expecting someone else there. Jensen is on the right-hand side of the map. It doesn't commit just yet. Mid lane push still there for C9 as they'll sweep out all the traps and try and take the turret down. Turtle got no friends here, and Jensen's about to come in. This should be the first mid out of for C9.
TSM are rotating, and they want to chase him off.
Power's getting low. They're not going to get it, though. Bifrost looks at Jensen, finds him, and Haunter got his way in there as well. Snare up on Jensen is huge. Bjergsen needs to find the angle, chunks him out with the QW. Impact in the front lines, but TSM have great initiative here for the fight. Sneaky flashed into it there. They're trying to do this again, but a huge shockwave for Bjergsen. A double kill for the Orianna. Smoothie now getting chased down. He'll go down as well to Haunter.
Bjergsen just kept looking for that shockwave on the back line. Ignored the early opportunities for small ones and hits a huge one. TSM moving over to Baron after that 3-kill victory. All right, who's up? Just Jensen and Impact. I don't see any hero plays around Baron, so they're going for the turret instead.
They should be able to get it. Jensen just needs one swift auto. Needs two. There we go. But Baron over to TSM in an instant.
And that's that solid 5-man team comp that we're talking about for TSM. They're able to chase him off of the turret, plus snare contracts under the turret. It's very fortunate that he's able to take this Thresh Lantern. But then look at the ball placement too. Bjergsen is just continually moving it up, trying to get it over to Haunter, who gets right into the back line. He finally passes the ball to Haunter, gets the 3-man shockwave they're looking for, and that's the end of the team fight.
C9 don't lose any more, but they will lose this mid out of turret, so just a soft turret trade there as TSM now up a few thousand gold. Svenskeren have to chase himself out, but C9 cannot afford an overextension here. Already pinging down to the bottom lane. Haunter's in the wave, prepped and ready to go, and TSM finally reviving some of that panache from summer last year, looking so much better than they have in the first 5 weeks.
Here they are again. Haunter's in the middle.
Haunter's pretty unkillable as well. Impact locked up. He's the tank, but he's going to fall down here. Haunter gets himself another.
And they're going to keep rolling ahead. Baron buff is going to power this push all the way to the inhibitor turrets, probably. They have quite a bit of cash left in their pockets, but really taking a ton from Cloud9 at the moment.
And this is the thing. You just can't afford to make little mistakes like that. The TSM of last year would have punished you heavily, and this TSM's doing it as well. 20+
seconds still on Impact. TSM can do another wave here and stay around until the turret goes down.
Svenskeren looking in for it. Big shots out for Wild Turtle. Gonna leave it open for as long as he can. Inhibitor now wide open. Smoothie gets chunked out as well. Sven's a little low, but Haunter just so tanky in the front side. Ulti out from Sneaky's just going to kind of, oh, that's awkward from Bjergsen, uses the ball, and immediately they have to pull away.
Yeah, that takes a lot of their confidence away. Disengage here, but Impact is in!
He wants to play, he's not going to make it! Taunt's not going to get there. Turtle still kiting away with the Edge of Night ready. Haunter low, but he's still so solid.
Woo. Yeah, nobody gets locked up here, and TSM will walk away scot-free. This inhibitor still exposed. There are also wards down here. TSM could return. There's 1minute and 20+ seconds left on this Baron buff as well. They still have a little bit of time to work with.
We do, but 5,000 gold up for TSM. Damage may well be done here for the side of C9, firmly on the back foot. If TSM can do any more than this, the game may well end on the next push, and I think that bottom inhibitor could have spelled the endgame position. Instead, Cloud9 will hold on to some much-needed objectives, but damage looking fairly critical on their bottom half of the map.
TSM coming out swinging here in game number 1. Eager to make up for the first meeting of these two squads. Bjergsen in particular doing very well, and we were looking at him for how he would come back from the 2-0 Fox defeat. Looks like he's wasting no time, and they're making use of the last 30 seconds of this Baron buff. Should be able to get extra gold here off the secondary turret.
Yep, this is about as much damage as TSM can afford to do, given that they misstepped in the bottom lane. They could have got that inhib and maybe that turret as well, but they do the smart thing with the Baron buff they have left. Gonna go in and spend their gold, or just take the Ocean Drake on the exit.
Yeah, honestly, clean the map of resources. Get everything out of there while they have so much priority.
And all the early damage is stacked up. I mean, we've looked at Sneaky and he's still so far ahead. We saw how much damage he was doing with the poke with his 2 items, and he will get stronger, but C9 couldn't convert cleanly for the mid-outer siege they needed. They eventually got it, but it cost them their turret and a Baron, and then so much more after this. And Bjergsen's about to go back and I think probably get his next major item. And we want to talk about power spikes. I mean, Jensen is at 2 items now, which is nice. Got a pickaxe as extra as well, but these Orianna shockwaves are going to start to do significant damage, game-ending damage.
They definitely are something you got to keep your eye on, because it's very clear where Hanser's going. Straight to the back line.
I mean, he's huge. That's the other issue, right? You highlighted this already. Cloud9 sort of on a timer here as far as their damage types go, and when tanks are ahead of the enemy carriers, he's just having the best time. And Haunter is firmly ahead of all the carries on Cloud9.
3 marksmen on Cloud9, and even though the majority of them are spellcasting marksmen, the Frozen Heart here will also further reduce the continuous attack damage that they're able to get out with autos. So Hanser is absolutely a monster here on the front line. And it's not like you can ignore him, because the added threat of Bjergsen passing over the shockwave right to him is kind of an untenable situation. It's this steamroller. TSM just want to come ahead, 5-man squad, group up for the standard team fight, and force you down.
Well, Baron is up in 1:55, and that 3rd item in Orianna's inventory should tell you a lot about how TSM are feeling in this game. Bjergsen wants to end this game as soon as possible. That is the most aggressive purchase you can make in that slot. And like you said, if a shockwave hits 1 or 2 squishies, they'll all die.
A lot of pure AP for him, and technically does increase the shields as well, so making them even more unkillable. First on the list, though, is going to be the secondary turret here. Clean up the easier gold to get. They also have that Ocean Drake, so any sort of poke doesn't really mean much. You know, and that's really the only thing that Cloud9 could have chalked up to any sort of advantage would be if they were able to land a bunch of the Varus and Corki poke, but even that isn't going to stick versus TSM, so it just looks extremely difficult for the comeback for Cloud9 here in game number 1. That being said, it's still a best-of-3 series, and they definitely have at least another chance ahead of them.
First one looking good. TSM actually took the safe turret in top lane and then went back to recall and reset for this Baron. Bjergsen didn't add too much next to his Rabadon's Death Cap that he just purchased, but we're looking for the Void stuff if we make it that far, and TSM know that the next objective here will be Baron. If Cloud9 lose this, it will be awfully difficult to keep themselves in this game, so they need to do something on the defense.
Yeah, and TSM have done all the planning. They've got all the pre-work done here. Almost cleaned out every single ward in the blue quadrant, just this one leading up here that Bjergsen's sitting on. Other than that, every area here, every crevice of this blue quadrant has been warded by TSM. So they will see that approach very early on and should be able to either pull off the Baron or burn it down according to the timing difference.
3 spare control wards as well. Actually now 2 as they're starting to place them back down in the area. Haunter ready with the teleport, Impact ready as well with both his globals, but TSM happy to play patient.
Yeah, and when you're in this situation, for Cloud9, it's so difficult. You want to try and keep some sort of pressure here around mid lane and push up the minions so that, you know, TSM have to at least make some sort of choice. Because right now, TSM, they're happy to just sit on their control wards, wait until you come close, eventually just wait you out. Now they're starting up the Baron. They do have shields to tank it with, plus Maokai almost takes no damage, and they're going in.
TSM going to peel, ulti up from Jin, contract tag with the first impact, trying to block for his teammates. Sneaky gets the next one, crit onto Jensen's good damage and impact. Flashes himself out of the way, but Sven chases forward as Bjergsen takes him down. Now Haunter locks off contract. Contract splashes out. Good hook there onto Sven's Garen, but he's going to live through everything. Bjergsen gets himself the double, and Haunter's just not done. Ball going to come in. Bjergsen needs to lock this up. Haunter still chasing in, sped up by the Orianna, slows in there. There's a triple kill for Bjergsen. Smoothie goes down as well. That's going to be the Quadra, and Jensen, the last round left for
Get
the Penta.
Dive him! Jensen's not going to give it to him, though. He's going back to the fountain, but TSM might go in there as well.
We got 25, maybe 30 seconds. The Penta window is long. Jensen is just daring TSM to try and kill him.
Do it!
Onto one super. TSM would rather take the game instead. Jensen is playing with fire. He knows as well he's going to dodge around. What?
Oh! He got it! That's the
Penta kill! TSM, the boys of summer may very well be back in spring. Clean game 1 versus Cloud9. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
The first Penta in North America, of course, belongs to Bjergsen. Jensen just made it look too juicy, and he was right, it was.
Pentakill against the #1 team. Explosive victory for TSM. Cloud9, to their credit, they did have the early lead there, had some early things going their way, according to the bottom lane, pushing in, but TSM, they got themselves out of this terrible situation where Turtle had died, given up his flash as well as dying, so they're just like, don't even go back to that matchup. You cannot handle that 2v2 anymore. They switch it up, they go topside to at least trade first turret gold. In favor of stuff on the bottom side that's basically already Cloud9's because they're winning so heavily down there and they have Shen. So I really like that, basically escape pattern from TSM to try and get out of a really bad situation. And after that, they're able to stabilize.
I mean, that's what it felt like. The game was stable for a long time. Cloud9 couldn't quite be as decisive or as aggressive as they wanted to. And then it just all went downhill. And TSM, every time they took an advantage, they were just straight back on pressing it. Like, we've seen a very scared-looking TSM for the early part of this season, but I was not scared. No, certainly not at all. Well, for more on that explosive TSM win, we're going to hand it back to Dash and our analysts.
Jinx.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. TSM with a pretty dominant victory there over our front runners in Cloud9, game 1 of the series. Now, going into this, Skara, both these team comps, fairly standard, right? So we're not deviating too much from the established meta that was before. So this game should be a pretty good kind of litmus test for us to look at these teams and say, what improvements have they made? Where are they at? And at the very beginning of the day, I asked you, what did you want to see from TSM?
I want to see proactive play, especially from the jungle and the mid lane. But funny enough, I got it from the jungle and like the bot lane. Like the bot lane, they messed up lane super bad. Turtle gets solo killed. It's okay, though. They rotated top, got first tower. Somehow was able to salvage Turtle's deficit in lane, and then they came back in with the bot side into top side jungle, got caught by C9, and it just wasn't very good after that.
This is that play you're talking about here in the 2v2. Sneaky and Smoothie coming out on top of the kill.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically the best bot lane in North America at this point. Sneaky, top 3, obviously, AD carry, and then Smoothie, I think, is undoubtedly the best. Great hook there. A big mistake out of Turtle in terms of the direction he flashed, but already that was not a great situation, and like Scar was saying, like they got crushed. They were down 40 CS at some point, and even after that swap to the top side. But the rest of the C9 wasn't able to really convert much off of it.
Well, and that's where we can give props to TSM for making smart moves, as you mentioned, that move to the top lane, saying, okay, we may have just lost the 2v2 bot lane, and it's only going to get worse. So let's remove them from the 2v2 situation and pick up a turret elsewhere.
I was really worried because when they rotated topside for deep vision, like Contracts caught them and like chunked them super badly. C9 picked up a kill. However, when they forced Dragon, they were able to clean up the entire Dragon fight. Hanser got really big there. I think Hanser just like almost solo carried this game from that point.
Right, I mean, that was just a huge sequence for them in terms of they get a kill, they get the Dragon, and then they go over the wall and get 2 more kills. And from there, the game was like closer to even at that point until there was that really big team fight when C9 was just sieging.
22 minutes into the game, mid lane, 3-0 in favor of TSM. Bjergsen's going to come up big here, as well as the final fight of the game later on.
This is what we're talking about. The Hanser kind of solo carry, uses the blast cone, get in range, get the W off.
Everyone sees the kills that Bjerg gets, but I see Hanser, he's unkillable, he's playing frontline perfectly. He sets up Ori really, really well in this series. Right here in the middle of 3 people, it's so easy to hit this ulti. Great ulti by Bjerg, and then Hanser still not even losing 10% health.
Yeah, so obviously off the back of this, they're able to go up and they grab that Baron. And then the really nice thing to see out of TSM was that they weren't like, slow. We had seen a lot of games out of TSM where it takes them forever to really make a move. They win that team fight, they go grab Baron, they get another team fight in the bot lane right after, and they're threatening the inhib like 25 minutes in, 26 minutes in.
Yeah, C9 on your screens right now, just sustaining that first loss. And as you mentioned, it was rather quick. Once TSM got control, they really ran over them. You got to wonder how this team is going to respond. I mean, they're veteran players. They've got a veteran coach. So I like to think that they're going to be able to shed that game and come back with fully refreshed minds. But that's going to weigh on them a little bit to have lost in that fashion.
Yeah, I mean, you see the massive CS advantage that happens in the ball lane. You think, all right, this is a game that they can win. Sure, TSM, nice play to trade the turrets. That's all great. But then they didn't seem to be able to make anything else happen for them. It was mostly just, oh, we get picked here. TSM has a good team fight there. And this was the concern about C9 a little bit that people were having, was that they seem really slow. They have, I think, one of the longest, it takes the longest for them to crack the first turret.
Yep.
And it seems like they struggle to make their own plays if the enemy team is not playing bad.
I think of all the teams, they feel the most comfortable going late. At least that's a sense I get when I watch Cloud9 play, is that they feel like they might be the better team in a straight-up 5v5 against anyone. So they're very comfortable playing slow and steady, because we get to 6 items against 6 items, and they think they're going to win. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final fight of the game here. 31 minutes in, Bjergsen picking up the first penta of the 2017 season here in North American LCS.
And Scar doesn't care about that. He's like, look at this Maokai. He gets taunted. He's hitting the tank, but no. Oh, but being serious, I mean, this is mostly off the back of Hanser. You just have to keep putting the ball on him, keep speeding him up. He's going to keep getting W's off. Another big one there. Knocks contracts in. He becomes your next target. And what does he do? Find the next one, speed him up again, run in, roots up sneaky, and then you just can't get the tanky tree off you.
I also love the patience on the Orianna ult. Using it now here.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely like a two-man show for me. Like, Bjerg did the damage, and Hanser did, like, the front line. And those two just almost single-handedly carried all the team fights.
All right, well, I'm going to let you talk about both of them a little bit more, because as we roll out the rest of this clip, Bjergsen picking up player of the game, Hanser receiving that honorable mention. Hard not to give it to the guy who did the damage, has the sweet scoreline, but you're looking at Hanser also deathless and setting up all those plays. It really was a two-man job.
Hanser right now making a good ticket for himself as one of the top 3 top laners in the entire league. I think the only thing that I'm a little bit worried about is his top lane carry play isn't that good. I'm questioning it a little bit. However, on tanks, he's looking very, very solid.
All right, so how do we feel about that with the changing top lane meta? At the very beginning of the day, you were talking about, hey, we've got new counter picks, say the Vladimir. We've got people playing Singe. We've even, we've seen all kinds of new picks coming out into the top lane. Jace as a flex. Do you think that Hanser might find himself in some trouble as that top lane meta opens up and allows for more carries to come in if he can't stack up against?
I think there's going to need to be more top lane tank nerfs before that happens, because there's enough diversity in top lane tanks for him to, he doesn't have to be forced to play carries. I think if he can't set up the fight for his team, a lot of times they tend to flounder. But if he can, then I think they team fight pretty well.
I mean, it is true that he does struggle a little bit in the carry matchups, and there are a lot of tanks, but I'm still concerned about what that limits them in the draft, because you see a team like Echo Fox where they can, pull the Singed out or something like that, and it's one of those things that if you don't have that kind of flexibility, because even to an extent C9, they tried it a little bit with Rumble for impact. I think if you need your tank or your top laner to be able to do that, though, it doesn't need to be his best thing. We just haven't seen that much out of Hanser yet.
Well, a little bit surprised. Do you have a last comment? It looked like you might have something you want thrown there.
Well, the thing that I think about is, has TSM ever been a super flexible team? Think about their entire history, all the rosters they've ever put together. Flexible is not the one word that you would use to describe TSM. They're dominant. They play their style very well. Usually the meta-oriented style they're very good at. Either they're pressuring one thing, they know how to control Dragon, or they know how to control buffs really well. But flexible? That's not the word I would use to describe
And
TSM.
I mean, we've seen it kind of crop up a little bit of an issue during the Worlds meta, where it was a lot of Rumble, Kennen, Jace, top laners, those kinds of things, and Hanser didn't look great on those.
And I think internationally, that might be a big problem. But domestically, they've always been able to do really, really well domestically without being very flexible.
Well, they got some time to figure it out. We'll see how the meta continues to develop. But TSM off to a nice start here with a win over Cloud9. We'll see if Cloud9 can even up the score when we come back with Game 2 against TSM. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the North American LCS.
I'm trying to tilt him before the game.
Yo, guys, what's happening? They think they're blue side. What's wrong?
Yo, Jensen.
Yeah, you make them talk about it.
Yo,
and
what-
you know they're wasting their
Yo, what
talk
the hell?
not about the game.
And we're wasting our time talking about them, wasting our time talking about the game.
Too big of a difference here.
Oh no!
Does land!
Looking there from Smoothie, Ignite is down. They're gonna try going and that's first blood to Smoothie.
Just good fight. Go Bubble on two, Bubble on two.
Follow me.
Grace flashed in.
Banks. Nice. Back. Go. Keep going.
I'm going to Shen.
Go Baron after that.
I'm going to Shen.
Baron.
He knows as well. He's gonna dodge around. What? Oh! He got it! That's